Yo, what is up? What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Thank y'all for tuning in to another daily fitness live stream show. Why does my microphone sound so loud today? I don't understand it. Okay. Yeah, this does sound really loud. But hey, whatever. Sounds good to me. We gonna get it going. So what's going on? How's everybody doing, man? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Yes, you made it to Friday. Yes, if you feel exhausted or drained for this Friday, just understand one thing. If it's a burden to you, if it's seeming hard to get through the Friday, always remember what Mr. Chow says.
Oh, you're having a bad day? Did you die?
I got shot.
But did you die?
As long as you didn't get unalived, you are good to go. You are ready to make it and push through Friday and get to this weekend. And yes, this has been a crazy week so far. We've been going through our series of central banking and things like that. But for sure, we'll just let you know we are simultaneously streaming on 4 platforms. We got YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. We're on all 4 platforms for sure. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor. Whenever you see that little thing right there, yes, that thumb, go ahead and hit the like button on YouTube if you're on YouTube. If you're on any other platform, on my link tree or whatever, hit the subscribe button. Give me a subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you want to contribute to today's show, right there, there's your Cash App, Daniel2888. The Venmo, Danny-Daniel-00. Yes, sir. And your voice will be heard for sure. Put you at top priority. With that being said, man, we got a good show lined up for you today. We got our 3 topics. Oh, something's in my eye. Excuse me. We got our 3 topics. We got fitness, the economy, and AI. Starting out with fitness, we're going to go ahead and go over a Coach Colton video. Shout out to him for use on this video. Going to see why he quit steroids. It's a longer video, but we're not going to go over the whole thing. We're going to take bits and pieces from it, and we're going to see exactly if him quitting steroids was a benefit or a detriment to his lifestyle. So we're going to actually get the full thing and see what's going on and figure this out once and for all. If being natty or not makes a difference. And we saw previously with Coach Greg Doucette, he mentioned that taking, juice or roids or whatever significantly increases your chance of success. So we're going to see what Coach Colton says and get an understanding to see if what he's talking about actually makes sense. Was it a benefit or was it a detriment to his lifestyle? Okay, and then we also just recently I had got some breaking news, and the breaking news is that we just found out that Elon Musk has called out Donald Trump for being on the Epstein list. Yes, Donald Trump allegedly is on the Epstein list. We don't know if it's true or not, but allegedly this is what Elon Musk has called him out with, and he got a Twitter battle going on between these two. So we're going to see how this pans out and how this goes. We're going to check into that breaking news. Then we're going to slide into the economy portion of the show. With the economy portion of the show, we are on part 6, I believe, of central banking and the enslavement of mankind. We've got a shorter video today on that topic, so we're going to go over that video, react to it, and see what's going on. It's going to help you get a better understanding on how economics work, how the economy works, how banking dominates every single thing that goes on. And whenever you think there's a war, revolution, crusade, inquisition, you're always going to find out that the underlying theme has always been banking, and the stuff you told on the surface usually was just a lie to cover up the real truth. All the way back to Caesar, even when Julius Caesar, come to find out that just the reason why Caesar got shanked up was because he angered some bankers. Yes, it's deep. It's deep. People are always trying to find a remedy and get an understanding as to why things don't work, but the truth is, bankers. Then we're going to move on to the AI portion of the show. And with the AI portion of the show, we're going to get into a VEO3 video. There's a VEO3 tutorial video. I'm going to sit down. It's a short one. I'm going to go over and see exactly how this guy does the VEO3 tutorial and see if I can actually recreate some good stuff live for you on the actual show to see how this VEO3 thing works and see if we can put some prompts together to actually put together some decent content, and potentially I could probably post it as a short if I do it right. So we'll see. We'll see. If I do it right, we'll have it as a short, and you'll see it later on my YouTube channel that I post a quick short from the VEO video that I made. So hope for the best, prepare for the worst type thing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now let me go ahead and turn some things off and on, as we always have to, because I keep forgetting to put stuff on vibrate, pause, and all that goodness. So let me make sure that I have all this stuff turned down and turned off. Let's see here. We good to go there? Yep. All right, we got that. Wait, let's move that out the way. Got that there. All right. I think we're good. Yes, we are good to go. With that being said, without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and slide right into the show and get things crack-a-lacking and get things going because, you know, it's Friday and hopefully that you are almost through with your work day. If you're on the East Coast, it's 12:30. If you're on the West Coast, it is 9:30 for you. So you're somewhat going through your work day almost. Oh, no, you're not even far through your work day. But on the East Coast, you're almost off work. Central Time, 11:30. You're halfway through your day. West Coast, just getting started. Yeah, keep pushing. Keep pushing on the West Coast. It's going to be okay. I got you. Don't worry. I got you. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to make it happen, okay? All right, with that being said, let's not waste no more time. Let's go ahead and get straight into the first video. The first video is going to be Coach Colton on the fitness portion of the show, fair use. We're going to see why he quit steroids. And always remember, a lot of these fitness influencers and fitness coaches, they be juicing up. Me, personally, I keep it natural as natural as I can. And that's really the only way I feel like the best way to go. But it seems like when you juice up, you pass everybody. And I'm not hating. Hey, get your money, do what you got to do. I'm not knocking you, but let's see what he says about it and see if he has any regrets on being on steroids since he's saying he's quitting. So let's see how this goes. So let's go ahead and pull this up on the screen and not waste no more time and get straight to it. Fair use and take it away. Here we go.
Video is educational and informative in nature. Do not contact.
This video right here
They already
never
caught me with the ad.
really
You know what?
existed.
That's what
It got over.
That's my fault. That's my fault. I did not hit the refresh button, and I need to get YouTube Premium, so I will be doing that starting next week. We'll have YouTube Premium, and we won't have no more ads, but we're back at it, so it didn't waste that much time. Let's go.
Anyone shown in this video. Also, this video is discussing steroids. Do not use steroids. This is entirely for educational and entertainment purposes only. Using steroids took my age, my hair, and honestly a lot of my social life. I thought steroids were going to make me more popular. I thought they were going to make me ultimately get famous, more rich. And quitting steroids last year really saved me from aging myself out of my own generation's bracket and honestly saved my hairline as well as a lot more for me. And I never thought I'd kind of be making a video like this, especially like 2 years ago. Everyone talks about how steroids are shortcuts, but let me tell you, they are far from it. They honestly don't do anything that crazy impressive, and you don't have to be on them to get really good results. If you're clicking on this video,
that guy right there in that video right there, this dude right here, he started, you know, like losing or getting lightheaded or whatever, but I think he actually died I think he actually lost his life shortly after this clip right here. So you see him kind of staggering off. And this guy came to catch him and hold him up, but I think he actually lost his life. I believe so. I could double check to be sure, but I believe this guy lost his life shortly after this. So that's sad. And let me change the banner. I see AI rising. Let's change that banner real quick. Bam, there we go. Fitness banner up, and we are rocking and rolling. Let's go.
Get really good results. If you're clicking on this video and you don't know who I am, I'm Coach Colton, or Colton Lucas, whatever you prefer to go by, and you will get a Bugatti if you click subscribe. That's kind of the thing here.
What?
Everyone's got one. You're missing out. I am essentially the guy that has recently built a platform off of talking on other people's steroid usage and the side effects from that steroid usage, as well as talking about various other fitness-related scams. In the end of 2019, October in that year actually, I won my natural pro card in bodybuilding, the PNBA pro card.
So 2019, were you natty at this point or were you juiced up? What do you think? I would call this, I don't know, this might be a natural build. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I mean, he was depleted like hell, but I would call this natural.
Minnesota Mayhem Men's Physique Champion, representing Team Hoagie, number 181, Colton.
Oh, good job, buddy. Good job. I think he was natural.
It felt quite good, but I knew that there was more I could do, and to be honest, that was my first series of shows, and it felt way too easy. I already basically had a pro card in the Natural Federation after 2 shows. Ridiculous. So, of course...
And the Natural Federation. That's what he said, the Natural Federation.
Basically had a pro card in the Natural Federation after 2 shows.
So this is him in the natty phase. So this is his natty. So he went through, got his pro card in the natty. So shout out to him. Shout out to Coach Colton on that. He did. So he went natty at first, and got his pro card. And then we transition over to juicing, which is okay, cool. I can respect that. He actually went through the phases of dieting, exercising, understanding what you're supposed to do. So let's check it out.
So of course I wanted to step things up, and I had garnered so much popularity just from doing that show within a group of people that there was a lot of positive affirmation that I should continue to pursue bodybuilding as a sport. I wanted to get huge, quite frankly. I was sick of being 170, 160 pounds at 6'2". My friends were all on the sauce, and I was really the only guy who was doing things naturally at that time, and I only knew a little bit about gear. The term,
I mean, he sound like me. I'm the only one doing things naturally, what it feels like, and it's like, hey, I'm doing it the right way, but it seemed like the right way don't get you the right pay. Like I always say, if you are not natty, your pockets are gonna be fatty. That's my slogan.
People use for steroids and other performance enhancements. But I felt confident in myself that this was the right direction that I was supposed to go down. After all, due to my military service at the time and repetitive concussive blasts, my pituitary was shot. It's actually a really common occurrence for combat MOSs within any kind of military brand. My testosterone levels would consecutively show up on blood work below 200 nanograms per deciliter, which is a very low reading for somebody who's 20 to 19 years old at the time, and I really hated that. That was not a great feeling. So the doctor really had
20 to 19 years old, his test levels was 200. I got my test levels done 2 years ago. I was 35 when I got my test levels done 2 years ago. Mine was like 850, 880.
had no idea what to do. He just kept prescribing me Clomid, which is a serum-selective estrogen receptor modulator. Basically binds to the estrogen receptor and gives your body a positive feedback loop in the sense that estrogen's not creating a negative feedback loop anymore, and therefore you should produce more testosterone. However, this made me feel like garbage most of the time, and inevitably, as you would probably guess, it didn't really do anything about my pituitary being non-functioning. Unfortunately, endocrinology is a very, very, very completely misinterpreted set of literature. It's very interesting, actually, a whole topic in itself in a video that needs to be done at some point, I'm sure. But even if I did see serum changes, it was very little, and if I got off of the Clomid, normally things would just come back down almost immediately. But the doctor said that I was too young to take testosterone, which made no fucking sense because being hypogonadal is far worse than being even supraphysiological in some cases. So that, along with my desire to get big, led me to running my first cycle and taking things into my own hands. Now, to start off, before you...
I'm curious. It looks like he was taking the injection steroids. It looked like he was taking the needle. I was wondering if he took any oral supplements, not supplements, but oral steroids versus the needle. But it seems like what he's implying was everything that he did was a needle. So let's see.
Even really got into bodybuilding, I was into bodybuilding. Like in high school, I would sit and watch Ronnie Coleman and the documentaries made about him. I'd watch him eating food. I'd watch Jake Cutler training. And I would even pack meal preps. Everywhere I went to high school, I would pack meal preps for lunch. If I didn't have them, I'd go run to McDonald's and grab 100-piece McChicken nugget. Like literally a chicken nugget, dude. I'd grab 100 of those bad boys to make up for my protein intake for the day. I had beef and rice every single meal.
Dang, 100 chicken nuggets from Mickey D's, bruh. 100 chicken nuggets from Mickey D's? Sheesh. I mean, I'm surprised you still alive. Because I'm pretty sure you've done that on more than 100 chicken nuggets from Mickey D's. I mean, they all right, but I wouldn't bank on that.
And everyone thought I was selfish and crazy at the time. And to be honest,
he was young. That's one thing I give him. He was young. Remember, he says like 19 or 20 or something like that. Plus, he's talking about he's in school. So your body's resilient.
They were a little bit right, but I was really just a guy who wanted to get big. And I saw that Ronnie Coleman just ate a ton of food, and I thought that's how it was done. So naturally, the progression of competing naturally and then definitely getting into the underground scene of steroids felt like it was supposed to be what it was. It felt like it was right for me. It didn't feel like...
Man, y'all think I should dive into the realm of steroids? Y'all think I should start juicing? Would that be a nice little series or documentary to go on my I'm going from natty to start, juicing for a cycle or two. You think I should go ahead and take the plunge? Now, the reason why it will be hard for me to take the plunge, I'm scared of needles, so I would have to take actual like the pill form if they have it. But I think I should go on a steroid cycle. I haven't ever done steroids before. I can, break my natty card. We'll see.
Like anything was off. And once I started my first cycle, I don't think it was anything crazy. It's honestly pretty hard to remember because I was reckless, which we're going to talk about at that time. But I think it was like 200 to 250 milligrams of testosterone. And then several weeks later, I did add 200 milligrams of nandrolone, I believe. I didn't really see the crazy results that people kind of explained that I would, nor did I get the results that I had kind of expected. Now, mind you, I had a very creative imagination as to what would have happened if I got onto steroids. I even at one point started to blast Anadrol quite.
Okay, so here we go. Crazy bulk, bulking, cutting strength, bulking and strength supplement, Anadrol. Is this what he took? Is this what he's telling us? Is this what he's took? If this is what he took and this is what he looks like, y'all think I should hop on it? Y'all think I should start juicing and go ahead and get on the mass series? Yeah, I mean, what y'all think? I think I should go ahead and do a droll cycle. I mean, he's doing 200 milligrams, 150 milligrams, but man, his test levels was a 200 at like 20 years old. That's crazy.
Heavily on my first cycle because I thought I wasn't getting enough out of the cycle. I thought there was just something wrong, and so I might as well go all out to try to achieve more gains. And I definitely got big, right? Like most people's standards, it'd be like, damn, dude, you changed a lot. You got really big. But not in my mind. It didn't go how I had expected in my mind. My expectations were that gear would be this totally new level that I would unlock. Like a totally different status of being as a human. Like my muscles would suddenly come to life, and every time I made a movement, all the fibers would come.
Yeah, he been watching too much Dragon Ball Z. That's what that is. You're watching some Baki Hanma. That's what he's thinking he's gonna get. It ain't gonna be that, buddy. Unless you eat like steak, potatoes, and broccoli with the appetizer, 10-piece bone-in wings, you'll get there. But that's gonna be a lot of food.
Together and create this insurmountable strength. I pictured myself lifting monumental weights in the gym. I pictured myself getting attention from everybody. I pictured Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, those guys.
Jesus.
So yeah, I grew by most people's standards, but in my own eyes, I just didn't achieve what I had wanted or set out to do. And especially with my creative imagination on what I thought was going to happen, I was pretty let down. The one thing I did almost instantaneously achieve though was side effects, clearly. My hair was always thick as a kid, and even in my teens, it was so thick, in fact, that I could get wet hair. I could go swimming, come out, and you couldn't see my scalp. That was a really crazy thing to have happen as a ginger. My hair was thick. But just a few weeks after starting a very moderate dosed cycle, my hair started falling out fast. I mean, I'm talking clumps. Like I would wash my hair and clumps of hair would literally...
Oh no, that would suck. I got dreads, man. Man, I'd be crying. Jesus, I can't. No. I can't do. I need a crying sound. I need a crying soundboard to my sound for my soundboard, because that's brutal. I couldn't be in here just like losing a dread in the shower and one just comes out. Like, boy, I would be hurt.
Literally come out into my hand. And it got very quickly to the point where I could see my hairline receding very quickly within months. And also my scalp was definitely not as thick as it once was. Sheesh. I always used to wear hats to cover up the fact that the side of my temple had very short hairs, but the middle of my forehead had very long hairs. And that compiled with a bunch of acne, which I didn't really get that bad of acne. I still...
And I believe I think all this he's talking about, he's under 30. So, I mean, to be going through hair loss and, acne, it just depends on the severity of the acne. But hair loss, man, yeah. I mean, and you ever seen anybody with dreads? Like, usually it's older people when they have dreads for a long time and their hairline goes back. I could only imagine that happening before you're supposed to, before that phase comes.
I'll get acne, as you can see, but it was definitely worse back then. I was extremely insecure. That led me down a path of using 5-alpha reductase inhibitors and much more stuff to try to save my hairline. And a lot of that was kind of when I started to really delve into the research about androgens and even exercise sciences and so much more, and then ended up getting a degree in nutritional sciences, a ton of stuff there. But
see, that's the problem. Once you start juicing, then you start to have side effects. Once you have side effects, now you're trying to like take drugs for the side effects. You know what I mean? So you're losing hair, so you start taking another drug for hair loss. And then that hair loss drug has a side effects. Now you take another drug for the side effects of the hair loss drug. So now you're on steroids, hair thing, and whatever the other drug is for the side effects of the hair loss. then that drug has a side effect. So now I mean, the next thing you know, you're just like on pills for whatever reason. You don't even know why.
It really started to make me use polypharmacy, or multiple different pharmaceutical agents, to try to combat the effects of one pharmaceutical agent. To top that off, I had extreme libido increases. I'm talking extreme. And that might sound like a good thing to you, but honestly, it was not. I hopped from girlfriend to girlfriend like they were popcorn kernels. I didn't even sustain a good sex life because I would just move on to the next girl before I could even build a relationship. And on top of that, it was just wildly distracting to be horny like 24/7. It's actually miserable. Of course, there were other things like mood instability, anxiety being one of them. Panic attacks most specifically started to conjure themselves in my life. It was crazy shit, honestly, like rapid heart rate accumulation, high blood pressure instantaneously within a moment's notice. And I had never felt that ever before in my entire life. I definitely got acne, but not as bad as what you see online in some cases. One thing that did happen very clearly is my skin started to age so rapidly. I went from looking my age, 20-ish years old, to looking definitely closer to 30. And regardless of these things and how much I disliked them, I thought it was just all a part of the process. It was just what would happen, and it would soon chill out. This was me coping with the fact that I really liked steroids. I really enjoyed the feeling of being on steroids. As well, being hypogonadal to then being super physiological in an androgenic sense is one hell of a roller coaster to ride.
Oh, okay. So he had the I don't know what the hyper and whatever that stuff is, but he had the visual. Oh, he had the visual, and he was extremely horny all the goddamn time. So you put those two together, and man, I experienced that, man. You get extremely, you know, once you start lifting weights, you eat healthy, have a good diet and everything, and you change your body for the better. Like, bro, your libido, you thought it was bad then. You're gonna realize how much crap you were eating, how much food affects your mood, and just the output and exertion of lifting and exercising and then you incorporate it with really good food. Boy, you're gonna want to clap everything that moves. You like, I mean, you get clapped. Like, I mean, it does get out of hand.
Go from feeling like a beat up Batman that's just like this hardened, cold dude because life sucks, to feeling like an emboldened Superman that is literally invincible. It is the craziest transition to make. It literally felt like possibilities were infinite, and in some cases they definitely were. As a human, I was the most productive that I ever was. I mean, I could crush shit on a daily basis easily. I could work 16 hours, barely get sleep, wake up and do it again with a smile on my face, no issues. In the military,
that's a good benefit. That's a really good benefit. To be extremely productive, that's a fantastic benefit. So I'm gonna give steroids 2 stars on that one. That's a great benefit mentally, to be extremely super productive and be able to output work and outdo your competition mentally, not just physically in the gym and gaining muscle, but mentally. You're out there crushing work. That's a huge plus.
Up so incredibly fast, which didn't even make sense, that I am still a higher rank than my peers are who are still in the military as I am out, and it doesn't make sense. I had to get congressional approval to even get promoted as fast as I did, but I just kept getting things done every single day. Award after award after award. It kind of was its own positive feedback loop. Again, this kept me very distracted from the changes that were happening to my body outside of just muscle mass, and of course, my mind changing. Because what slowly started to happen was a life where I had this sort of inclusionary group of friends started to now become more distant, more lonely. I didn't have people around me. All I really cared about was going to the gym, taking my steroids, eating my food, and getting work done, and going to sleep as soon as I could. Which, don't get me wrong, this is actually pretty good as a path because I made a lot of money through a successful business and then got to reinvest that money into a real estate portfolio. It's just that the business itself and money doesn't necessarily quantify to rich and healthy relationships. I was literally Conquest from Invincible saying that I was a product of my own success.
I am a victim of my own success.
Sky high prices are...
No, oh god dang it, it did it again. I mean, I don't really see the issue here. I mean, hey, if you're out there, you're taking steroids and you're crushing goals and moving at a rapid rate, I can't really tell you if that's bad or not, because I'm like, hey, I'm always under the understanding it's lonely at the top. That's how I look at it. So, I mean, that's part of business. You're doing good, you're being successful. You're going to be lonely for a minute because you're outgrowing everyone. That's just the natural cause. You're going to be outgrowing everyone around you because, you know, your income is increasing, you're zoned in, you're just tunnel vision. You see nothing else but the money, but the business, but the success, but the increase, but the, you know what I mean? Then that feeling comes along with it, and it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, in everything you do is the right choice. Your energy is positive. So, I mean, he's saying I don't really see too much cons right now, because if you did all that in a short span of time and then turned around and allegedly quit, and then everything went back to normal, I mean, risk and reward seems like it actually worked out if everything went back to normal. But we're going to see. Let's check it out. Let me pull this back up. Where'd it go? There we go. All right, let's continue.
Too many people to where it was more often than not complete isolation, which I do think is a very healthy thing for most men and they should embrace, but I definitely liked it and a little bit too much. Anyways, I competed in several more NPC shows, non-tested federations, to get a nationals qualifications. I started with physique and then I graduated into classic physique, a much more bigger class for men, and inevitably I never actually got that qualification. I do have cerebral palsy, and that was always something that kind of kept me back and always kept me weaker and uncoordinated, which is not something I'll get into in this video, but definitely a big part of what also fueled my steroid usage, because I was always the weak and uncoordinated kid. I couldn't play sports in high school or elementary school or anything like this because I literally couldn't. Anyways,
okay, well that makes sense then. So the steroids just gave him all of the attributes to do the things that he couldn't do. He just naturally couldn't do. Got on the steroids and he was like, yo, this is freaking amazing. I can do this, I can do that, I can accomplish this. So, I mean, I can't knock him on that one, man. I really can't. I can't knock him on that one, to have the ability to do the things that he couldn't do in school. Now he's like, I see why the jocks had such a good time.
I got third place in this one show. It's my last show that I ever did. It was the Battle of Texas. It was a huge show. There was over 660 competitors at that single regional level show. And if you're familiar with bodybuilding, that is a massive, massive regional level show. And I was really upset that I did not qualify. I mean, third overall in a show that big is really impressive. And it was a crazy accomplishment. But to me, I was just completely upset. This was several years after my first cycle, a little less than 3 years. And I was considering considerably bigger at this time, but still stepping on stage in a category where the weight cap was closer to 260, I was only about 208-ish on stage at that point. And after this loss, it became very clear in my mind and in the walled garden that I had lived in for so long that I just needed to use more steroids, I needed to eat more, and I needed to train harder. And that is exactly what I did for several months after that show. Until a certain point, actually. A few months after this part of my life, I started to rebound, obviously, and I got up to 260 pounds. This was my biggest ever, and I was very lean. I was still surprisingly lean. This was, again, the biggest.
I'm 260, bro. Who he sound like? I'm 260, bro. Shout out to that dude.
I had ever been, uncomfortably big. And it was actually one of the first times in my life that I recognizably was pretty happy with how big I was. People noticed me, people would stare at me, people would look at me all the time and be like, what the fuck is going on with that dude? However, everything else, literally everything else outside of the hour and a half I spent in the gym was a complete mess. My life was tremendously in shambles. I was always tired. I was always needing to sleep. I was constantly moody. I had a very strict regimen every single day where I had to wake up at a specific time, go to bed at a specific time, eat very specific meals. I literally was eating 7 times a day. I was also injecting 7 times a day, sometimes even more, up to 9 times a day, which is...
Bro, injecting, so he was doing the needle 7 to 9 times a day. I could never. That's no. I couldn't even do 1. I'm still scared of needles. 7 to 9 times a day. Is that what it takes? It takes 7 to 9. Oh my goodness. I think I'm gonna have to bow out gracefully on that one, buddy. I'm not feeling that. I can't do that one. No, sir. Not I.
It's just a far cry from where I started at.
I mean, if I could find the pill for him, you know what I mean, I would. I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to see what it would do. I mean, just again, the side effects, but we'll see if he went back to normal. He looks healthy right now, but we'll see the internal, because it's one thing to look good on the outside, but you always want to get your blood work done and know what's going on the inside.
At 2 injections per week. On top of that, I lost more important relationships to myself due to negligence and just focusing on bodybuilding and business far too much. What I did have, however, was a really fruitful business. I started to get a lot of financial success from the things that I was doing whilst doing nothing else but bodybuilding. My social media started to take off, not on YouTube as much as it was on Instagram and TikTok. And so that led to some real ass money, you know, like some good money from a guy who worked full time in the military to now is out of the military and on his own. But really quickly, what began to happen was that the business stuff started to take just about as much time as the bodybuilding stuff, which was my entire day, and they started to combat each other. Furthermore, I wanted to live my life. I mean, my early 20s, I spent in the military, I spent during COVID lockdowns, I spent bodybuilding. I mean, all of that time was spent away from people, away from normal life, away from what a typical path might be in somebody's world. I had no friends, I had no groups, I had no hobbies. I'd never really traveled or done anything outside of what I was doing in the military, but when you're traveling in the military, it's a lot different. So I slowly started to lose interest in bodybuilding, at least for myself.
I mean, what he's describing, of what he's saying, like, my personal opinion, this is my opinion. I think what he's describing, what he did in his during that phase, the unwavering discipline that he had in his 20s, I think that's what every man should do. In your 20s, you should find something, find a way to generate as much money as possible, and just go ham at that your entire 20s, from the age of 19 or 20 all the way to 31, 32. You know what I mean? Like, go all in on that for that period of your life. Go ham on that in your 20s and do not stop. Be relentless with it. So, I mean, he may feel a certain way about it, but when he looks back and when he gets older, he gonna be like, I actually did it right. And you did. So you're supposed to go ham in your 20s, and you know, then use that to springboard you through your 30s. It's a process. So he feels a certain way, but at the end of the day, I think he did it right.
I still enjoyed being a onlooker and helping other people with it, but for me, it was kind of just something that felt less lustful, I guess. I lost grips with it. I stopped caring as much and started to look at things from outside of that walled garden I was originally in. I saw how much money I was spending on gear versus off gear. I saw how much my face and body had changed.
Whoa, hold up.
Spending on gear versus off gear. I saw how much.
Wow. Did he dye his hair? I hope he dyed his hair. Jesus. On gear, off gear. Yeah, you look youthful here, but over here, buddy, you look stressed. I mean, but again, I mean, that's just a part of the business, in my opinion. I think, you know, I mean, you go ham and then you take a minute, you step back, and you gather yourself and get yourself together, because you went hard to get to where you're at. So I feel like it's a part of the cycle. It's a part of the process.
My face and body had changed on gear, very ugly, very, very ugly way, versus off gear, which is a shocking difference. And I'm very happy to be where I am now physically in attraction. These pictures are pretty damning, to be honest. Holy shit. This is real stuff. Like, this is the real shit that happens when you're on gear. Vigorous Steve talked about this too, where he showed when he came off what his face did as a transformation compared to his older videos, and same kind of thing, very dramatic facial changes. And you never really notice how insidiously gear will affect you physically and how you look, because it is a slow sort of architectural change that happens over a long period of time. But basically what began happening was that the pressure to look big and be strong and all this other stuff started to fade off relatively quickly, especially when I began to travel the world. That's something I picked up relatively quickly back in like 2023-ish time frame. I started to travel and live all over the world. I sold all of my things, left the country.
No, exactly. See, when he's talking about traveling the world, you wouldn't have been able to do that if you wouldn't have took that path of being well, military, being on gear and doing what you did. You feel a certain way afterwards, but you went through the process. You were young, your body could bounce back, you're resilient. So, I mean, then you were able to use that and travel and learn and gain experiences. And traveling is something that everybody should do, because that's how you gain knowledge and understanding. You understand the world through a different lens via traveling. So I don't see it as a negative. I see this as a pro, except for the hair loss or the hairline going back. My God, that's brutal. And yeah, the hair loss. So the hairline going back, the hair loss would be the two huge, like Like, you know, those would be the two extremely top scary ones for me.
And started to go to Europe, Thailand, lived in Thailand, Korea, all over, and just experienced life. I had a blast. It was some of the funnest parts of my history so far, and it's something I fully intend on continuing to do. I'm just back in America momentarily to buy some more real estate, but that's all okay.
See, buying more real estate, that came from that phase you went through. So I don't see too much of like a negativity in all this use that he did. I mean, I hate to say it, but this video that he put out, he says he quit steroids, but you are making it seem, well, you're not making it seem, you're just telling your story, but your story is very financially lucrative, and that's very enticing, and you abused it, but again, you were young when you did it, so your body had time to, and you know, recoup from it, and you liked it on top of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah,
leaving as soon as possible. But one thing's for sure is that while I was opening up my perspective living outside of the United States, Thailand became more of a home for me. And what started to happen there is I really invested into Muay Thai. It got to a point where I was doing Muay Thai 3 hours a day, 2 times a day. So I'd be training 6 hours a day of Muay Thai, once in the morning and once in the evening. I'd be going to multiple camps every single day of the week. I mean, I was in it, seriously in it. And because it was a sport that definitely doesn't encourage you to be bigger. In fact, it's much more advantageous to be lighter. I had more incentive to be pulled away from bodybuilding even more. I had more incentive to lose weight instead of gain it for once. And at this point, I stopped eating at about 6 times a day, which has kind of just always been my regime. To
you don't got to eat 6 times a day. People do that to eat smaller meals to hit a macro level, and it just depends what his macros were. I don't know what his calorie intake was and what his macros were designed out to be. Eating 6 times a day is crazy work. I would eat 3 times a day, you know, breakfast, a big meal after the workout, and then by that time you're sleepy, you want to take a nap, and then one more meal before like 8 o'clock type stuff, you know, and that should be it, or before 7:30. So eating 6 times a day, that's a lot.
Now 4 times a day, and eventually even 2 times a day. I literally started changing the entire doctrine that I had lived by for so many years while I was living in Thailand. It's something that I'm really thankful for. When I left Thailand, I somehow ended up in Canada of all places. I tried to run another steroid cycle, but I just wasn't in it. I wasn't feeling that passion for bodybuilding or injecting myself. I kept completely just ignoring having to inject steroids into myself. I kept ignoring having to eat meals, and instead of just skip them altogether. So I didn't last long. I stopped maybe 2 months after starting, and those 2 months were really half-assed, if that. Which it's not like I wasn't training or anything. I still love training my body. I just don't like being a bodybuilder in the sense of putting on weight, injecting tons of compounds, all this other shit. So yeah, I stopped completely. And here I am basically a little over a year later. I have barely been even taking my TRT doses of testosterone. I miss injections like crazy. It's actually pretty pathetic. So somewhere around 100.
So he's still on injections. So he takes, it was TRT you were taking? I don't know what he's taking. TRT? I don't know what he was taking. It said anadrol earlier, but I don't know. That's interesting to see. However, it seemed like it was a positive endeavor. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do to get to where you want to be. That's always been my motto. That's always how I see life. Sometimes you got to do things you do not want to do to get to where you want to be, and that seems like a fact of life. It just seems that way. It just seems that that's how things work out in this world, especially, you know, with the way the system is designed. That's how it has to be.
150 to 200 milligrams a week, depending on how many injections I can consistently nail down. However, I do clearly and transparently run peptides very regularly, things like retatrutide, GLP-1 agonist, or those of you who might not know that terminology, it's basically a form of Ozempic. I also use like BPC and TB500 for injury healing. I got hit on my motorcycle from the drunk driver a while ago. We talked about this in a previous video, but that's a whole thing. My ankle's broken, so I use that stuff now too. But I'm truly not running any like legitimate steroids. There's no trenbolone, there's no Anavar, there's no equipoise, there's nothing of that nature. I am now down to a shocking 214 pounds as of this morning from my original peak weight of 260 pounds. At 6'2", that's a huge fucking difference. I feel great. I feel nimble. I still feel powerful. And best of all, I feel like my hairline is holding on, which is great. Barely, but it's there. And I get more compliments on how attractive I am, which is awesome as well. Like super huge for me, I guess. I no longer have a moon face. I no longer feel that dreaded fatigue all day long. I no longer am bound to the clock to eat food regularly. I have a hell of a lot more time to focus on business. I don't have to spend money buying all that freaking gear, which equated close to almost $2,000 a month, you guys. Is a ton of fucking money. All of that stuff, which has helped me definitely reinvest more money into more real estate.
But still, you're doing all these other things on the outside from the steroid use of you getting, being successful in what you were doing. So I don't see too much of the negatives. It had negatives from it, but again, everybody's different. Everybody's body does not react the same. So he was just, fortunate enough his body didn't react in too bad of a way. But then again, maybe he didn't go as hard as some other bodybuilders do. I don't know, but I'm not seeing a lot of cons versus the pros. Like to me, the good outweighs the negative. That's all I'm seeing. In his steroid use, to me, from what he's telling us, the good outweighs the negative.
To build my portfolio here in Florida, and that's been awesome as well. And then on top of that, I have a crippling addiction to motorcycles now, and I own way too many, and I have absolutely started to get back into Muay Thai again. Now, I do think that PEDs are helpful in many people's cases, and in fact, I do support entirely using them. I think it's great, especially in certain sports. It can actually be helpful in terms of preventing injury, in terms of recovery from injuries, in terms of longevity of someone's career in a given sport. But I also think you can get stuck in this walled garden that gives you so much positive feedback that you keep using steroids and you keep using more steroids and you keep inappropriately using them. I don't demonize or condemn sports or people who use them. And in fact, as I clearly said, I kind of embrace it. I mean, it's really insane if you think about it. People can tolerate I'm a psychopath. I couldn't tolerate that lifestyle for a few 6 years or so, but like I couldn't tolerate that lifestyle as much people have done it for like 2 decades, right? So it's crazy. I also think that there's probably a right way to use PEDs and a very, very wrong way to use PEDs, which is a lot of what I try to talk about on this channel. For the longest time,
Exactly. And he did it for, what did he say, 6 years? So you just get in and get out. You do it, you use it, you get the full benefit from it. And I would agree, if you're going to use it, make it as lucrative as possible. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's not going to be forever. It's a means to an end, not a lifestyle. So use it for what it's gonna. Right now, his pros outweigh the cons.
I was definitely doing things the wrong way, which was constantly increasing doses, trying to chase a result. And of course, using more will end up getting you more, but it will also end up getting you more side effects. And I used them so wrong for so long, even though oftentimes I know exactly what I need to do, but that emotional dilemma of needing more is very, very invasive. And now when I kind of look back at what I was doing 3, 4, 5 years ago and how I consider it now is totally different. I mean, it was wildly destructive behaviors. Back then, it just felt like the right thing to do. And I guess this message is overall for people who are considering to use steroids or who are using them and feel a little bit directionless with the use of them. It isn't that I think you shouldn't use them or that you should come off of them, as much as I think it's important for you to truly understand where you're at in life and understand, conceptualize what the use of them could do to you. Outside of the little walled garden you're in, outside of that positive feedback loop, outside of that odd bit of isolation that you're embracing right now. If I could go back in my life and change things, I would change so much, right? When you're in that feedback loop, you isolate yourself, you pull yourself away from so many people, and it seems like such a casual decision at the time. I'm just going to use a little bit of testosterone testosterone, use a little bit of whatever. But you do fundamentally change your life from that point moving forward, massively so. If I could go back right now, I would tell myself very clearly that you need to be socially engaging. You need to be talking to people. You need to be taking your social life and your relationships far more seriously. And I understand you have this really big and complex goal, but it's not as complex as you think it is. I see a lot of young people getting stuck in this trap. I don't want to call it a trap because in some sense it is a career, but they're getting in this pattern of life where they don't even want to go out to their own birthday party because they would rather just stay on plan and or do their sport. And I just think that's so wildly destructive. Or even better yet, as an example, the women using steroids who are completely modifying their bodies.
Okay, yeah, we're not talking about the women. I'm going to go with what he's basically saying. Shout out to him for this video. I greatly appreciate it. But at the end of the day, whenever he talks about the steroid use, I'm going to say that the pros outweigh the cons. That's all I got. The pros outweighed the cons on his steroid usage. I mean, you had cons. He lost. He said he was losing hair. His hairline was messed up. But when he showed pictures, his hairline didn't look that bad. Again, he was young in his 20s. So I don't see it. And then, you know, you had the extremely financially lucrative side. You got a real estate portfolio that you invest in and all that good stuff. You say you isolated yourself and stayed away, and you were focused on staying on program and staying. To me, those are good things. I don't see the negativity on that whatsoever. I just don't see it. I'm just not. I can't agree with it. I wouldn't. Now, again, I'm not saying to abuse the steroids or nothing like that, but I'm saying the use that it had for the 6 years he claimed he did it, but he still does it now, but not as much. He used it for the right reason and, you know, benefited from it greatly. So I just don't see it. I mean, as far as it, I don't see it. I'm just, yeah, no. I'm going to go with he made me a believer. That's all I can say. I think that him saying he quit, but then give us the story and how his life turned out, it seemed like it worked because he got to take trips to Thailand and live in Thailand and develop a career, have a real estate portfolio and then move back and buy some more real estate in Miami and choosing to, I mean, those to me are all positive. So can't really say that his steroid use was a bad thing, but shout out to Coach Colton. Go check him out on YouTube, man. Appreciate that. Okay. What we got next? Next, we're going to get into the organ of the day. This is going to be a quick one, real quick. We're going to go over the organ of the day. Then we're going to, after this, hop into the economy portion of the show. One more thing is going to be the organ of the day is going to be, what is the organ of the day? It is the liver. The liver is going to be the organ of the day. And we're going to look at a video by KinHub Labs that they're going to show a visual as to what the liver and where it is, where it's located, what it does. I'm going to read off exactly the functions of the liver and how it works. The video is probably not going to match what I'm saying, but that's fine. As long as you get a visual as what I'm talking about, we can actually see exactly how it works. So let's go ahead and get that started right here. We're going to get that video playing. I'm going to go over and explain to you exactly what the liver, wrong one. Explain to you how the liver works. So the liver is the body's largest organ, and it is situated in the upper right hand side of the abdomen, underneath the diaphragm. It's a vital organ with a wide range of functions, playing a crucial role in metabolism, digestion, detoxification, and homeostasis. Key functions are going to be detoxification. One of the liver's primary roles is filtering blood and removing toxins, including those from alcohol, drugs, and waste products from metabolism. And then you have the bile production. The liver produces bile, a fluid that aids in digestion and absorption of fats in the small intestines. Then you have metabolism. The liver plays a crucial role in metabolizing of carbohydrates, so proteins and fats, converting nutrients into usable forms and storing energy. So, you know, when you eat your food, that's where all of that stuff takes place at. Protein synthesis, another function. The liver synthesizes important proteins for blood plasma, including albumin and clotting factors. Blood clotting. Regulation. The liver is involved in producing clotting factors necessary for proper blood clotting. And then we have the immune function, which then the liver plays a role in the immune system. And then it helps to fight infections by producing immune factors and removing bacteria from the bloodstream. You have the vitamin and mineral storage.
The liver stores important vitamins A, D, E, K, and B12, and minerals, iron, and copper. So make sure that you take your iron, your copper supplements, and your zinc, and your magnesium, and all that good stuff. Or just eat out of a cast iron skillet like I do. Glucose processing. The liver produces glucose, which is sugar, and it stores it as glycogen for energy when needed. So when you eat sugar, it stores it somewhere else, and whenever you need to deplete off that extra energy left over, it'll pull it from that. It may turn into a healthy fat or unhealthy fat, but it'll still use it as sugar later on. Now, the structure of the liver, the liver is comprised of two main bodies. Two main lobes is what we'll call it. It's a larger right lobe and a smaller left lobe. These lobes are further divided into smaller units called lobules, which are the liver's functional units. Each lobule contains millions of liver cells called hepatocytes. Yes, I said that right. Hepatocytes, which carry out the liver's numerous functions. The liver receives blood from two sources: the hepatic artery, which is oxygenated blood, and the hepatic portal vein, nutrient-rich blood from the digestive system. Filtered blood then leaves the liver through the hepatic veins, which drain into the inferior vena cava. And that is gonna be and one more. The liver is the liver regeneration. The liver has an extraordinary ability to regenerate. As long as at least 25% of the liver tissue remains, it can regenerate into a whole liver. Holy crap, I did not know that. However, this regeneration, we don't want that to stop. This regeneration is more of a compensatory growth, where the remaining tissue grows to replace the lost mass, rather than true regeneration of the original form. This unique ability is crucial for liver transplantation and recovery from injury or partial removal. That is interesting. I had no clue that the liver could regenerate itself. The more you know, the more you grow. So this is what we have right here, this video right here. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at an actual human liver. So we're going to switch over to a different slide, and we're going to look at an actual human liver. It's not bad. It's not gory. It's from people who donated their body after they passed away. But we're going to look and see what it looks like, a healthy liver and a fatty liver, and actually watch the short video version to get them to give them a full explanation to see what it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to that right here. As you can see, we got that right there, and this is from Anatomy Lab, so fair use to them. And let's have them explain exactly what a healthy liver versus a cancerous liver looks like. Here we go.
This body died when cancer cells infiltrated and started growing in the liver. You can actually see some of the rough spots or nodules where the cancer likely spread to. And for comparison, here's what a healthy liver looks like with more of this brown, smooth textured surface. And just some additional information, we're really zoomed in here on this body as well as really zoomed in on this body. And so if you've never seen a liver before, the liver is located in the right upper portion of the abdomen, draped by this muscle that you can see called the diaphragm. And you might notice that the healthy liver looks a little bit smaller than the cancerous liver. And there are two reasons for this. The healthy liver is in a much smaller body. This body is female and about 5 feet tall, whereas the cancerous liver is in a male body that is about 6 feet tall. The second reason is that the diseased cancerous state also likely caused this liver to enlarge to a certain degree.
Oh, wow.
However, that was not the primary cancer of this body. The primary cancer of this body was colorectal cancer. And here's part of the rectum and the colon, rectum being down here, coming up to the sigmoid colon here. And this is where those cells forming the tumors were originating, and eventually those cancer cells from the rectum and the colon spread into the bloodstream to get to the actual liver. This body died when cancer...
Interesting. So the cancer cells were attacking the liver from the colon, but at least they got to the liver from the colon. Oh man, that's pretty brutal. Well, hey, that's going to be the organ of the day, which is the liver. So shout out to Ken Hub and Anatomy Labs for that knowledge. Yes, sir. All right. So what we got here? All right, so next we're going to switch over to the economy portion of the show. So we're going to go into the economy and see what's been going on there. So we're going to go ahead and switch it over. But before we start, we got to go with the first story that we have in the economy portion of the show, which is going to be breaking news that just came out either last night or this morning, which is going to be Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Yes, these two are beefing. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why are you two beefing? I mean, let's get it together. So the breaking news that we're going to have right now is Elon Musk has called out Trump and said he is on the Epstein's list. Oh my goodness. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at live from Fox, fair use. Hopefully they don't give me a strike for watching their stuff. We're going to take a look at the breaking news and have them break it down and to see if this is true or just allegations. So with all that being said, let's switch it over. Let me go ahead and change the banner real quick. And let's go ahead and check out this breaking news from Fox News about Elon Musk calling out President Trump, allegedly, if it's true. Here we go.
Another breaking news story, the war of words still ramping up between President Trump and Elon Musk, the two of them going back and forth. President Trump making some statements earlier today from the Oval Office stating that Elon Musk is upset and he isn't sure exactly where the relationship stands, stating that Elon Musk was, quote, wearing thin in his social media post. Well, now, not surprisingly, Elon Musk now taking to X to share even more thoughts. And I wanted to share the very latest as this continues to be a back and forth right here. The very latest comment from Elon Musk is time to drop the really big bomb. President Trump at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. And
He didn't say that. Tell me he didn't just say that.
I think he did. He put it in a tweet. Bruh, drop the nuclear. What did he drop? He dropped one of these. Oh my goodness. Now, how you gonna own a social media platform and then put this tweet out on your platform? Boy, Elon petty. He's so petty. This is funny.
And earlier on in the Oval Office, President Trump foreshadowing perhaps these comments getting personal, because before President Trump did state that up until that point, when he made those previous comments, that Elon Musk did not speak about him negatively personally, but expecting that. And I wanted to share that with you right here as I pull up the exact tweet right here. But I did want to share that with you as we continue to follow this breaking news as President Trump and Elon Musk continuing to square off and really just getting ugly with some of these comments that we are seeing from them right here. But before that, we did.
I want the clap back because I know Trump clapped back. All right, here we go. Here we go. Because we know Trump clapped back. He cannot hold water. He can't hold his mouth shut if he tries. So we got to hear the clap
This
back.
particular comment from Elon Musk saying Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy. So the latest comment, once again, from Elon Musk is he is taking off the gloves right there, saying, quote, time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
Oh,
that is the
Elon pulled the angry baby mama card, boy. He pulled the angry baby. He pulled the baby mama card. Elon petty. Oh my goodness. Yo, shout out. This is gonna be fun to watch. You ever seen a president in a Twitter war with the what is Elon's position? Because I know he was only going to be there for X amount of time, then he was dipping out. And ironically, that time is coming to a halt, not because of this situation, but he had a time frame he would be there. But I never really knew what Elon's position was. But whatever it is, he just dropped the bomb on Donald Trump. Jesus. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, it's all fun to see a president get into a Twitter war, right? You know what I mean? The president got Twitter fingers with one of the dudes he put up on game, and I'll tell you what, within his first few months, I'm pretty sure they made a hell of a lot of money. They probably bankrolled like crazy. And when they got up there, this is all they heard. Let me show you what they heard. This is all they heard. This is all they heard. As soon as they got in there, walked in the office, and all you heard was this. So now that the money is made, I guess the pettiness begins. Yes, the pettiness begins. But yeah, so that's what we got going on right there with Trump and Elon Musk. So yeah, we'll see exactly how that situation pans out. I don't know. And I wonder if it's true, because right now it's just an allegation, because he ain't come up with the receipts. He ain't proved nothing. It's just what he says, and you know, he said that's the reason why they didn't produce the files. However, if Elon, you got the files, then let's see exactly what it is that you got to produce, because I want to see the receipts. That's what's going to tell us if it's true or not for sure. So right now, this is all allegation until the receipts are printed and shown. Yes. So that's going to be it for that part. But now we're going to get into the other video that we have for the show, which is going to be the central banking and the enslavement of mankind, where we are on part 6, where we're going to sit down and take a look. And right now we're at the part of the rise and fall of state banking from 1932 to 1945. And this is a pretty lengthy video. We're going to sit down and watch and go over. But we have been looking at this and going into parts. We're on part 6. I think it ends on like part 8. So we're almost done. But we're going to sit back and see exactly how state banking ended. And again, we're going to probably see a few more people get skitty pop and knocked off, because every single time somebody decides to go against the powers that be, it seems like there's always, seems like there's always the same thing that happens. There's always the same correlation. It's like we have an excuse of why a war or something's happening, but underneath it all, somebody is trying to impose their will in order to put people under their currency to basically accrue high interest rates and put them under debt. Then the people in prominent positions, whether they're politicians or populares, is what they called them back in Julius Caesar's day, they see what it is and they're like, hold on, whoa, no, you can't do that. That's not going to work. So they start to put safeguards and restrictions on them. And when they do that, what always ends up happening is the same thing. It always ends up like this. And there they go. They're gone. You know what I mean? That's how it ends, except for Caesar. Caesar got shanked up like he was in prison. But that's, you know, here or there. But let's go ahead and move in and go ahead and check out this video. We got a nice little lengthy video. So here we have it right here, the history of central banking and the enslavement of mankind. Let's see where this takes us. So let's get right into it. Let me go ahead and turn off that mute. You know what? Before we start this, let me hit the refresh button, because I want to make sure that we don't get caught up. Oh, nice. It goes right into it. Perfect. All right, cool. Well, let's get right into it. Let's go.
By Stephen Mitford Goodson. Chapter 6, The Rise and Fall of State Banking, 1932 to 1945. You are aware that the gold standard has been the ruin of the states which adopted it, for it has not been able to satisfy the demands for money, the more so that we have removed gold from circulation as far as possible. Protocol number 20. I next argued that the gold standard, the fixing of rates of exchange and so forth, were shibboleths which I had never regarded and never would regard as weighty and immutable principles of economy. Money, to me, was simply a token of exchange for work done, and its value depended absolutely on the value of the work accomplished. Where money did not represent services rendered, I insisted it had no value at all. Adolf Hitler. Reichsbank, the state bank of National Socialist Germany.
Okay.
In May 1919, an insignificant soldier attended a lecture given by a former construction engineer turned economist, Dr. Gottfried Feder, 1883 to 1941, entitled The Abolition of Interest Servitude. The purpose of this course of lectures was to provide the soldiers with a background in politics and economics, which would enable them to monitor the many revolutionary and political movements active in Munich at that time. The following quotations taken from Mein Kampf reveal the decisive influence that Feder would have on Adolf Hitler's thinking. For the first time in my life, I heard a discussion which dealt with the principles of stock exchange capital and capital which was used for loan activities. After hearing the first lecture delivered by Feder, the idea immediately came into my head that I had found a way to one of the most essential prerequisites for the founding of a new party. To my mind, Feder's merit consisted in the ruthless and trenchant way in which he describes the double character of the capital engaged in stock exchange and loan transactions, laying bare the fact that this capital is ever and always dependent on the payment of interest. In the fundamental questions, his statements were so full of common sense that those who criticized him did not deny au fond that his ideas were sound, but they doubted whether it be possible to put these ideas into practice. To me, this seemed the strongest point in Feder's teaching, though others considered it a weak point. And again, I understood immediately that here was a truth of transcendental importance for the future of the German people. The absolute separation of stock exchange capital.
Wait, so the person talking, okay, so the person talking is the mustache man, right? Okay, so I think this is the mustache man's point of view is what we're having. Okay.
From the economic life of the nation would make it possible to oppose the process of internationalization in German business without at the same time attacking capital as such. For to do this would be to jeopardize the foundations of our national independence. I clearly saw what was developing in Germany, and I realized that the stiffest fight we would have to wage would not be against the enemy nations, but against international capital. In Feder's speech, I found an effective rallying cry for our coming struggle. A few weeks later, Hitler received an instruction from his military superiors to investigate a political association called the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, German Workers' Party. At this meeting, held on the 12th of September 1919 in the Sternecker Brau Inn in Munich, about 20 to 25 persons were present. The main speaker was Gottfried Feder. Shortly thereafter, Hitler joined this party and received a provisional certificate of membership numbering 7. His first act on assuming control of the party was to rename it the Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, National Socialist German Workers' Party. Feder, who was the principal drafter of the party's 25 points, became the architect and theoretician of the program. In July 1933, he was appointed Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs and in 1934, Reichskommissar, Reich Commissioner. Monetary reform was the very essence of National Socialism, as is revealed in the following extracts taken from The Program of the NSDAP, the National Socialist German Workers' Party and its General Conceptions, published in Munich in 1932. Adolf Hitler prints its 2 main points in leaded type. The common interest before self, the spirit of the program. Abolition of the thraldom of interest, the core of National Socialism.
Okay, he was a socialist. So he was a socialist, but I mean, as I grow in my understanding of socialism, right? I kind of have a idea of 2 different kind of socialism, because when you learn about this and you learn about private banking, right? You have a government that is on the private banker side, socialism, but then you have a government that is anti-central banking, but is a state banking type of government that is social, that has a socialist mindset. So I have to dive deeper into that, but so to get an understanding, seeing that he's a socialist.
Once these 2 points are achieved, it means a victory of their approaching universalist ordering of society in the true state over the present-day separation of state, nation, and economics under the corrupting influence of the individualist theory of society as now constructed.
Okay.
The sham state of today, oppressing the working classes and protecting the pirated gains of bankers and stock exchange speculators, is the area for reckless private enrichment and for the lowest political profiteering.
Whoa.
It gives no thought to its people and provides no high moral bond of union.
Whoa, the shamus, oppressing the working class and protecting the pirated gains of bankers and stock exchange speculators. Bro, does that not sound like today? I'm sorry, but I mean, those words are profound way back then and they hit hard now. So, yeah.
The power of money, most ruthless of all powers, holds absolute control and exercises corrupting, destroying influence on state, nation, society, morals, drama, literature, and on all matters of morality, less easy to estimate. Break down the thraldom of interest is our war cry. What do we mean by the thraldom of interest?
Yes.
The landowner is under this thraldom, who has to raise loans to finance his farming operations, loans at such high interest as almost to eat up the results of his labor, or who is forced to make debts and to drag the mortgages after him like so much lead.
Oh wow! So he was against that. He was trying to abolish the thraldom. Okay, so this is what thraldom is. Thraldom is where the landowner is under this thraldom. Okay, so basically you are just being taxed to hell on your land. So you're just constantly being charged high interest. Basically, usury is what this whole situation has been over. So he was against it, which is not a bad thing. I can't disagree with him on that. That's a good thing, to be against being constantly taxed on your land, especially with the farmers who are a big, a big proponent to a society when you know exactly where your food is coming from, as opposed to having a bunch of GMOs in your food.
So is the worker, producing in shops and factories for a pittance, while the shareholder draws dividends and bonuses which he has not worked for. So is the earning middle class, whose work goes almost entirely to pay the interest on bank overdrafts. Thraldom of interest is the real expression for the antagonisms, capital versus labor, blood versus money, creative work versus exploitation. The necessity of breaking this thraldom is of such vast importance for our nation and our race that on it alone depends our nation's hope of rising up from its shame and slavery. In fact, the hope of recovering happiness, prosperity, and civilization throughout the world.
Hey, if that's what he said, if that's what he agrees with, I agree with him on that one. I mean, if those are his words, I can't disagree with that. That's factual, actual.
It is the pivot on which everything turns. It is far more than mere necessity of financial policy. Whilst its principles and consequences bite deep into political and economic life, it is a leading question for economic study, and thus affects every single individual and demands a decision from each one. Service to the nation or unlimited private enrichment. It means a solution of the social question. Our financial principle: finance shall exist for the benefit of the state. The financial magnates shall not form a state within the state. Hence our aim to break the thraldom of interest. Relief of the state, and hence of the nation, from its indebtedness to the great financial houses, which lend on interest. Nationalization of the Reichsbank and the issuing houses, which lend on interest. Provision of money for all great public objects, water power, railroads, etc., not by means of loans, but by granting non-interest-bearing state bonds and without using ready money. Introduction of a fixed standard of currency on a secured basis. Creation of a National Bank of Business Development currency reform for granting non-interest-bearing loans. Fundamental remodeling of the system of taxation on socio-economic principles. Relief of the consumer from the burden of indirect taxation, and of the producer from crippling taxation. Fiscal reform and relief from taxation. Wanton printing of banknotes without...
If this is all what he's saying, this is not a flawed mindset. Dude was literally trying to put his country back on the map and basically get them from being taxed. He was like, look, you're not about to place all these high interest loans on us. And he's going over everything. He's like farming, railroads, land. He's going over everything, work. And he's like, we're not finna have all that stuff going on, all these high bearing interest loans and all this stuff. Like, we don't want none of that. He's literally trying to put his country on the map, and he's trying to get them from being debt slaves to a currency that charges high interest from a private bank. I can't knock that. That makes sense.
Creating new values means inflation. We all lived through it. But the correct conclusion is that an issue of non-interest-bearing bonds by the state cannot produce inflation if new values are at the same time created. The fact that today, great economic enterprises cannot be set on foot without recourse to loans is sheer lunacy.
Wow.
Here is where reasonable use of the state's right to produce money which might produce most beneficial results. On the 30th of January, 1933, the National Socialists were swept to power by means of a coalition, or Regierung der nationalen Konzentration, Government of National Concentration, with the Deutsche Nationale Volkspartei, German National People's Party.
Okay.
A somewhat attenuated version of monetary reform was introduced. In order to finance the state's work in rearmament programs, two dummy corporations called Gesellschaft für öffentliche Arbeiten, OFA, and Metallforschungsgesellschaft, MEFO, were established. These corporations accepted bills of exchange from suppliers who fulfilled state orders. These bills of exchange were then discounted at the Reichsbank at a rate of 4%. They were issued for 3 months only, which was clearly unsatisfactory in view of the long-term nature of the various projects they were financing. They could, however, be extended at 3 monthly intervals for up to 5 years. In January 1939, matters came to a head when the president of the Reichsbank, Hjalmar Schacht, refused extension of 3 billion Reichsmarks worth of OFA and MEFO bills because of fears of inflation. On the 7th of January, 1939, Schacht sent Hitler a memorandum signed by himself and the 8 other board members of the Reichsbank, which contained the following main points. 1. The Reich must spend only that amount covered by taxes. 2. Full financial control must be returned to the Ministry of Finance, then forced to pay for anything the army desired. 3. Price and wage control must be rendered effective. The existing mismanagement must be eliminated. 4. The use of money and investment markets must be at the sole discretion of the Reichsbank. This meant a practical elimination of Göring's 4-year plan. Schacht concluded his memorandum with the ambiguous words, "We shall be happy to do our best to collaborate with all future goals, but for now, the time has come to call a halt." By these means, Schacht intended to collapse the German economy, which during the period of 1933 to 1939 had increased its gross national product by 100%.
Bruh. He was, wow. Wow, GDP increased by 100% in a 6-year term, 6 or 7 year term, and they were trying to collapse the German economy. Man, I need to, what is this, 1930? So anybody in that time frame would be in their 90s. Nah, you would probably nobody's alive at this from this time frame. If they are, they're probably close to 100.
From being a ruined and bankrupt nation in January 1933 with 7.5 million unemployed persons,
Wow.
Hitler had transformed Germany into a modern socialist paradise.
And if you saw yesterday, the Great Depression in the United States, the unemployment was 8.3 million unemployed. 8.3. And if you look at this time frame right here, the Great Depression was going on in the United States during this time. What, the Great Depression started in like 1929 or something like that. So US is going through a Great Depression during this time. And on the other side of the world, this is going on.
He was justifiably angry and rejected the recommendations of the Reichsbank as mutiny. 2 weeks later, Schacht was sacked. Roger Ellison described this momentous event as follows. On the 19th of January, 1939, Schacht was summarily dismissed, and the Reichsbank was ordered to grant the Reich all credits requested by Hitler. This decisive action essentially emasculated both the Reichsbank's control over domestic monetary policy and the German power base of international Jewry. It had the effect of removing from Jewish bankers the power to deflate and destroy the German economy.
Whoa.
Excluding the implications of the interest rate paid on the VEO bills, Germany could now be viewed as being on a Feder system rather than a Schacht system. The Reichsbank effectively became an arm of the government, with the only real change being in the fact that bills were now monetized or discounted under the auspices of the state rather than some Jewish lackey in the Reichsbank presidency. Thus, only in January 1939 did the Reichsbank become an authentic state bank. Schacht's dismissal also terminated the transfer of confidential information regarding all of Germany's economic developments, which he had been deviously giving without interruption to Montague Norman, a fellow Mason and governor of the Bank of England, 1920 to 1944. A new Reichsbank law, which was promulgated on the 15th of June 1939, made the bank unconditionally subordinated to the sovereignty of the state. Article 3 of the law decreed that the bank, renamed the Deutsche Reichsbank, should be directed and managed according to the instructions and under the supervision of the Führer and Reichschancellor. Hitler was now his own banker, but having departed from the fold of international...
Whoa, he became his own banker. That is amazing. What? You became your own banker. That's a hell of an achievement to achieve. Oh my gosh. He became his own banker. Anybody who can achieve this. Wow. Now, from what I was taught about this individual versus what I'm learning now, it's not the same story. The stories are two completely different stories. And I don't understand, from what I've learned, I can't remember what the fight was over, but I mean, again, the underlying story is always the same. He became his own banker. Man.
Swindlers and usurers, he would, like Napoleon Bonaparte, who in 1800 had established the Banque de France as a state bank, suffer the same fate. An unnecessary war followed by the ruination of his people and country.
Man,
it was this.
Hold on. We got to hear that again. Listen.
Under the supervision of the Führer and Reichschancellor. Hitler was now his own banker, but having departed from the fold of international swindlers and usurers, he would, like Napoleon Bonaparte, who in 1800 had established the Banque de France as a state bank, suffer the same fate. An unnecessary war followed by the ruination of his people and country. It was this event which triggered World War II.
Oh, wow. That's what treated... Okay. Oh, and he met the same fate, which he ended up unaliving himself. But, so that event triggered World War II. So,
Thank God we saved the West from Stifler. Okay.
Realization by the Rothschilds that universal replication of Germany's usury-free state banking system would permanently destroy their evil financial empire.
What?
These triggered World War, followed by the ruination of his people and country. It was this event which triggered World War II, the realization by the Rothschilds that universal replication of Germany's usury-free state banking system would permanently destroy their evil financial empire.
Wow. 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 No way. No way. The realization by said individuals that the replication of Germany's usury-free state banking system would permanently destroy their evil financial empire. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this is crazy, yo. This is wild. Now, when you look into conspiracy theories, some turn out to be true and some remain theories of false. This is crazy. This is crazy. And his name is tarnished. His name is dragged through the mud.
In order to provide the Poles with a free hand, which would enable them to antagonize and provoke the Germans, a deceitful and worthless offer to guarantee Poland sovereignty was given by Great Britain on the 31st of March, 1939. During the next 5 months, the Polish government progressively intensified the oppression, harassment of, and attacks on the remaining 1.5 million ethnic Germans living in Poland. These attacks, in which over 58,000 German civilians were killed by Poles in acts of wanton savagery, culminated in the Bromberg massacre on the 3rd of September, 1939, in which 5,500 people were murdered.
Wow.
Initially, these provocations and atrocities were stoically ignored. Eventually, Hitler was compelled to employ military intervention in order to protect the Germans in Poland. On the 30th of August, 1939, in an act of great statesmanship, Hitler again offered to the Polish government the Marienwerder proposals. The 4 main proposals were as follows. 1. Retention of the existing 1919 borders as determined by the Treaty of Versailles. 2. The return of Danzig, population 370,000, to Germany, which was 97% German. 3. Construction of a 60-mile, 96-kilometer, autobahn and rail link connecting West and East Prussia, from Schönlanke to Marienwerder. 4. An exchange of German and Polish populations. On the orders of the international bankers, the British Foreign Secretary, Lord Edward Wood Halifax, strongly advised the Polish government not to negotiate. This is how and why World War II was started and disposes of the canard of German culpability. From 1939 onwards, although Germany made at least 28 known attempts at peace without conditions, they were all refused. The ensuing
From 1939 onward, Germany made at least 28 known attempts at peace without conditions, and they were all refused. What are you talking about? At least 28. He was trying to make peace and they refused them all. Wow.
Forced war resulted in victory for the international financiers and defeat and slavery for the people of Europe and indeed the world. In Europe, this enslavement was finally achieved with the establishment of the Rothschild-controlled European Central Bank on the 1st of June, 1998, and the introduction of the euro on the 1st of January.
I did not know that. I didn't know the euro was introduced on the 1st of January in 1999. I did not know the euro was that new. I did not know that. The euro is that new, 1999. It took 3 empires, the British, Soviet, and Americans, 12.5 years to demonize, defeat, and plunder one nation smaller than Texas. They call this victory. Wow.
1999. Achievements of the German state banking system. One of the primary benefits which state banking and monetary reform conferred on the German people was the provision of adequate housing. During the period 1933 to 1937, 1,458,178 new houses were built to the highest standards of the time. Each house could not be more than 2 stories high and had to have a garden.
Had to have a garden. Bruh, hold up. Hold up. We got to give a round of applause for that. Wow. The more you know.
The building of apartments was discouraged, and rental payments on housing were not permitted to exceed 25 Reichsmarks per month, or 1/8 of the income of an average worker. Employees earning higher incomes paid a maximum of 45 Reichsmarks per month.
The building of apartments was discouraged. He made sure everybody had a house and he had to have a garden on it, and did not build apartments. Bruh, in the month of oh my goodness.
Interest-free loans of 1,000 Reichsmarks, about 5 months of gross pay, known as Ehestandarlehen, marriage loans, were paid in certificates to newlywed couples to finance the purchase of household goods. The loan was repayable at 1% per month, but for each child born, 25% of the loan was canceled. Thus, if a family had 4 children, the loan would have been considered repaid in full.
What? Oh my bro, he had the nuclear family on lock. What? Is this really true? This is what he did? Oh my goodness, this is like mind-blowing.
The same principle was applied in respect of home loans, which were issued for a period of 10 years at a low rate of interest. The birth of each child also resulted in cancellation of 25% of the loan. Education in schools, technical colleges, and universities was free, while the universal healthcare system provided everyone with free medical care. During the period 1933 to 1937, imports increased by 31%, from 4.2 billion Reichsmarks to 5.5 billion Reichsmarks, while exports, particularly to Southeast Europe, rose by 20.4%, from 4.9 billion Reichsmarks to 5.9 billion Reichsmarks. This increased trade is reflected in the 76.9% rise in inland shipping, from 73.5 to 130 million tons conveyed, and the 69.4% rise in ocean shipping, from 36 million to 61 million tons transported. During this period, trade was greatly enhanced by barter, which bypassed the international payment system and the requirement of having to pay commission and interest on bills of exchange. By the late 1930s, 50% of all foreign trade was being conducted by means of barter transactions using offset accounting. There were 25 countries, mainly located in the Balkans and Latin America, participating in such barter agreements. In the same period, expenditure on roads, and in particular the Reichsautobahn, of which 2,400 miles, 3,862 kilometers, were completed by September 1939, rose by 229.5%, from 440 million Reichsmarks to 1.45 billion Reichsmarks. This construction, which besides having symbolic value representative of the new Germany, was necessary in order to accommodate the substantial increase in licensed vehicles, which rose by 425%, from 41,000 to 216,000 vehicles, and the even higher increase of 622% in licensed commercial vehicles, from 7,000 to 50,600. Between 1932 and 1938, iron ore production increased by 45.4%, from 843,000 to 1,226,000 tons. German ores contained only 25% iron, as opposed to the superior iron content of the Swedish ores, which they could not afford. This difficulty was overcome with the Krupp-Brenn process, which produced high-quality steel. Between 1932 and June 1939, the index of coal production rose by 85.5%, from 69 to 128, while the energy index rose during the same period by 76%, from 75 to 132. As a result of all this heightened and ever-increasing economic activity, unemployment, which stood at 30.1% in 1933, had been reduced to almost zero by July 1939, and retired workers had to be enticed back to the labor market in order to make up for the shortage of skilled workers.
Okay, hold on. Let me see that last part. Retired workers had to be enticed back to the labor market in order to make up for the shortage of skilled workers. Okay, that could be something to say for that. It's not going to be perfect, but I mean, this is crazy. Okay, let me read this right here. This is from Dr. Friedman Grimm. Okay, atrocity propaganda is how we won the war, and we're only really beginning with it now. We will continue this atrocity propaganda. We will escalate it until nobody will accept even a good word from the Germans, until all the sympathy that they may have, that they may still have abroad,
will have been destroyed, and they themselves will be so confused that they will no longer know what they are doing. Once that has been achieved, once they begin to run down their own country and their own people, not reluctantly, but with eagerness to please the victors, only then will our victory be complete. Jesus. It will never be final. Re-education needs careful tending like an English lawn. Even one moment of negligence and the weeds crop up again. Those indestructible weeds of historical truth. What? Those indestructible weeds of historical truth. Wow. Wow. And this is what he said after the German surrender in 1945 in a conversation with the German professor of international law. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then let's see. Fuller, the British and historian. What thrust us into war were not Stifler political teachings. The cause this time was his successful attempt to establish a new economy. The cause of the war were envy, greed, and fear. The cause of the war were envy, jealousy, greed, and fear, but he was his successful attempt to establish a new economy. So he did it. He established a new economy. And, you know, I don't know how big Germany is, but he did it. Oh my goodness, this is crazy news.
Workers had to be enticed back to the labor market in order to make up for the shortage of skilled workers. In contrast, the unemployment rate in the United States, which had stood at 25.1% in 1933, had, according to the National Industrial Conference Board, declined only marginally to 19.8% by January.
Wow, so the U.S. was in the Great Depression during this same time. What was going on over there in Germany? If you look at your time frame, so the U.S. was in the Great Depression. The Great Depression, the unemployment hit to 25, and they only got it down to 19.8. As opposed on the other side, the unemployment in Germany, which stood at 30% in 1933, had been reduced to almost zero in 6 years. What?
Rate in the United States, which had stood at 25.1% in 1933, had, according to the National Industrial Conference Board, declined only marginally to 19.8% by January 1940. A situation which may be attributed to the irrational but nonetheless deliberate policies of the Rothschild-controlled Federal Reserve Bank and the parasitic private banking sector. National income in Germany rose by 43.8% from 45.2 billion Reichsmarks to 65 billion Reichsmarks between 1932 to 1937, while between 1932 and June 1939, the index of producer goods increased by 219.6%, from 46 to 147. Yet, the cost of living advanced by only 4%, or less than 1% per annum, a rate which would be achieved throughout the 12 years of state banking under National Socialism. The German monetary policy was non-inflationary because government expenditures, which increased the level of consumer demand, could in turn elicit a correspondingly increased quantity of disposable consumer goods. By 1939, Germany had become the most powerful country in the history of Europe. Its gross domestic product at an annual average growth rate of 11% per annum had doubled in the short space of 6 years of quasi-state banking.
Wow.
The Germans were now the happiest and most prosperous people in the world.
Quasi-state banking. I know. Let me make sure my understanding of that word is correct. Quasi meaning. What is quasi meaning? Quasi means fake. So they're gonna call it fake. They're gonna call his state banking fake. Okay.
Of quasi-state banking. The Germans were now the happiest and most prosperous people in the world, fully employed and enjoying one of the highest standards of living. This success was achieved by the hard work of the German people and with the support of an honest money system not based on usury or the gold standard. One of the myths propagated by establishment historians is that Germany's economic renaissance was based on armaments production. The following table reveals modest levels of defense expenditure, which only picked up in 1938 to 1939 when Germany started to feel threatened by her neighbors. Even expenditure of 22% of national income on defense just before World War II started may be deemed as not being too excessive when one bears in mind that Germany's borders possess few natural boundaries, and at that time she was surrounded by hostile neighbors, Czechoslovakia, France, and Poland. Germany also had to replenish the armaments which she had been forbidden to possess in terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The English historian...
Wait, I gotta read that down here. In his book, What to Do About Germany, Louis Neisser wrote there were about 50 million German men and women within the procreation ages. And it's estimated that 20,000 surgeons performing about 25 operations daily could sterilize the entire male population of Germany within 3 months and the entire female population in less than 3 years. A much more effective way to bring about Neisser's goal was to convince the Germans to do it to themselves via birth control by engineering their consent. Oh my gosh. Talk about evil. Okay.
Furnished the armaments which she had been forbidden to possess in terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The English historian A.J.P. Taylor writes that the state of German armament in 1939 gives the decisive proof that Hitler was not contemplating general war, and probably not intending war at all.
What?
Post-World War II developments. In May 1945, the Deutsche Reichsbank ceased...
Okay, so one thing I do know, when World War II started, that's when the United States was able to get out of the Great Depression. So U.S. got out of the Great Depression via the start of World War II because that provided jobs.
Operations, although its affairs were only wrapped up in 1961 and was succeeded in the western half of the country by the Bank Deutscher Länder, Bank of German States, on the 1st of March 1948. This bank introduced the Deutsche Mark on the 21st of June 1948 and later became known as the Deutsche Bundesbank, which was established on the 26th of July 1950.
So I think by this time, Stifler had already unalived himself, I believe so, by this time.
Although legally independent and modeled on the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, the Bundestag, or federal parliament, exerted considerable control and influence over its policies, and it was not as fully independent during that time as most central banks are today. During 2001, as a result of its membership of the European Central Bank, the Deutsche Bundesbank ceded most of its authority to that organization. Its remaining responsibilities, which are shared with the ECB, are the issuing of banknotes, managing the clearinghouse, bank supervision, and management of currency reserves. The principal objective of the ECB, as laid down in Article 127(1) of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union, is to maintain price stability. This obsession is largely responsible for the record levels of unemployment and low levels of growth in GDP currently being experienced and the ongoing collapse in the birth rate. The ECB was established on the 1st of January 1998 and formally became operational on the 1st of January 1999 with the introduction of the euro. This Rothschild-controlled bank is ironically situated at Kaiserstrasse 29, Frankfurt am Main, not too far from the Judengasse, Jews Lane, where Mayor Amschel Rothschild and his brother Kalman set up a shop peddling coins and medals in the 1780s.
So all of this that we're seeing going on is just the work of banking. That's what this is. All of the, catastrophes and things that we're seeing, it's all a work of central banking. That's what's causing it. Because we're having right now, everybody's feeling a huge economic pressure. Everybody's feeling huge economic pressure. Sorry, it was a fly or something. But that's what everybody's feeling, and all this is intentional. It's not accidental. It's intentional.
For those 18 countries which have foolishly adopted the euro and joined the ECB, their subjugation and enslavement are a fait accompli. Fascist Italy. On the 28th of October, 1922, Benito Mussolini and his National Fascist Party came to power. Fascism should be more appropriately described as corporatism, as it symbolized a merger of state and corporate power. In 1936, the Chamber of Deputies was replaced by a National Council of Corporations with 823 representatives from industry, labor, and the states who guided industry and settled labor disputes. In the 1920s, by means of deficit spending, a program of public works was instituted, which was unrivaled in modern Europe at that time. Bridges, canals, autostrada of 2,485 miles, 4,000 kilometers, hospitals, schools, railway stations, and orphanages were built. Forests were planted and universities were endowed. The Pontine marshes were drained and 310 square miles, 802 square kilometers, were reclaimed. As part of the program of national self-sufficiency, or autarky, agriculture was subsidized and regulated. The State Bank of Italy. In 1926, Mussolini first intervened in the banking sector by granting the Banca d'Italia jurisdiction over the issue of banknotes and the management of minimum requirements for bank reserves, including gold. This formed part of his policy of using Italian fascism, primarily to create an autarkic state not subject to the vagaries of world trade and finance. In 1927, Italy received a loan from J.P. Morgan of $100 million to meet a special emergency. Thereafter, Mussolini refused to negotiate or accept any more foreign loans, as he was determined to keep Italy free from financial subservience to foreign banking interests. In 1931...
Wait, Mussolini too? Mussolini, that was his, he was, oh, let me learn.
The state arrogated to itself the right to supervise all major banks by means of the Istituto Mobiliare Italiano, Institute of Italian Securities. In 1936, the process was completed when, by means of the Atto Riforma Bancaria Banking Reform Act, the Banca d'Italia and the major banks became state institutions. The Banca d'Italia was now a fully fledged state bank, which had the sole right to create credit out of nothing and advance it for a nominal fee to other banks. Limits on state banking were lifted, as was the case with the Bank of Japan, see Infra, and Italy abandoned the gold standard. The State Bank of Japan. The Bank of Japan, or Nippon Ginko, was founded on the 10th of October, 1882. Although the Japanese imperial household was the largest shareholder, it functioned as a typical central bank, i.e., for the benefit of private banks to the detriment of public interest. In 1929, C.H. Douglas, whose system of social credit had been previously discussed, went on a lecture tour of Japan. His proposals for allowing government to create the nation's money and credit free of interest were enthusiastically received by the leaders of both the Japanese government and industry. All of Douglas's books and pamphlets were translated into Japanese, and more copies were sold in that country than in the rest of the world. The reorganization of the Bank of Japan into a state bank administered exclusively for the accomplishment of national interests was commenced in 1932. The reform of the bank was completed in 1942, when the Bank of Japan law was remodeled on Germany's Reichsbank Act of January 1939. The bank operated in the following manner. It declared that the bank was a special corporation of a strongly national nature. The bank was to assume the task of controlling currency and finance and supporting and promoting the credit system in conformity with policies of the state to ensure the full use of the nation's potential. Further, it was to be managed with the accomplishment of national aims as its sole guiding principle, Article 2. As for the functions of the bank, the law abolished the old principle of priority for commercial finance, empowering it to supervise facilities for industrial finance. The law also authorized the bank to make unlimited advances to the government without security, and to subscribe for and to absorb government bonds. In respect of note issues, the law made permanent the system of the maximum issues limit. Thus, the bank could make unlimited issues to meet the requirements of munitions industries and of the government. On the other hand, government supervision of the bank was markedly strengthened. The government could nominate, superintend, and give orders to the president and the directors.
Wow. Government can nominate, superintend, and give orders to the president and the directors.
There was also a clause giving the government more comprehensive powers to give so-called functional orders to the bank, to direct it to perform any function it deems necessary for the attainment of the bank's purpose. Moreover, the law made a wide range of the bank's business.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So functional orders to the bank to direct it to perform any function it deemed necessary for the attainment of the bank's purpose. Okay.
For the attainment of the bank's purpose. Moreover, the law made a wide range of the bank's business subject to government approval, including such matters as the alteration of bank rate, note issues, and accounts. Japan had been experiencing the same traumatic difficulties caused by the artificially created Great Depression. However, the conversion from a central to a state banking methodology produced results which were both swift and sustained. The above table illustrates the
They went from conversion from a central to a state banking, so they went to a state banking methodology?
Produced results which were both swift and sustained. The above table illustrates the progressive improvement which took place in the Japanese economy once the shackles of usury had been removed.
Oh, wow.
During the 1931 to 1941 period, manufacturing output and industrial production increased by 140% and 136% respectively, while national income and the gross national product were up by 241% and 259% respectively. These remarkable increases exceeded by a wide margin the economic growth of the rest of the industrialized world. In the labor market, unemployment declined from 5.5% in 1930 to 3% in 1938. Industrial disputes decreased, with the number of stoppages down from 998 in 1931 to 159 in 1941. By the late 1930s, Japan had become the leading economic power in East Asia, and her exports were steadily replacing those of America and England. In August 1940, Japan announced the formation of the Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere. The fear that these countries would adopt Japan's state banking methods posed such a serious threat to the Rothschild-owned and controlled U.S. Federal Reserve Bank that a war was deemed to be the only means of countering it. How Japan was forced.
There we go again, another war. Now, if Japan was doing state banking, this could actually make sense as to why Hiroshima and Nagasaki was placed upon them, because they were causing issues with the bankers.
Into World War II. From July 1939, relations with America rapidly deteriorated after the USA unilaterally abrogated the Treaty of Commerce of 1911 and thereby restricted Japan's ability to import essential raw materials. These measures were imposed avowedly because of the war in China and were followed in June 1940 by an aviation fuel embargo and a ban on the export of iron and steel to Japan in November 1940. On the 25th of July, 1941, all Japanese assets in England, Holland, and America were frozen after Japan, with the permission of Vichy France, had peacefully occupied Indochina in order to block off China's southern supply routes, and all trade between Japan and America was summarily terminated. At the same time, President Franklin D. Roosevelt closed the Panama Canal to all Japanese shipping, and a rubber and oil embargo was enforced, which resulted in the latter case of the loss of 88% of all supplies. Without oil, Japan could not survive.
Oh, man.
General Hideki Tojo, Prime Minister, October 1941 to July 1944, explains in his diary how the United States continually thwarted Japanese efforts at maintaining peace. Japan's peaceful commercial relations were being persistently undermined by the USA and posed a grave threat to her future existence. By means of the economic blockade, a noose was being placed around Japan's neck. Not only were the United States, England, China, and Holland encircling Japan through economic pressures, but naval forces throughout the region in the Philippines, Singapore, and Malaya were being redeployed and strengthened. American battleships were observed steaming through the seas surrounding Japan. An American admiral claimed that the Japanese fleet could be sunk in a couple of weeks, while British Prime Minister Churchill declared that England would join America's side within 24 hours. General Tojo wrote, "Japan attempted to circumvent these dangerous circumstances by diplomatic negotiation, and although Japan heaped concession upon concession in the hope of finding a solution through mutual compromise, there was no progress because the United States would not retreat from its original position."
Wow.
Finally, in the end, the United States repeated demands that, under the circumstances, Japan could not accept: complete withdrawal of troops from China, repudiation of the Nanking government, withdrawal from the Tripartite Act. Numerous diplomatic initiatives were made by Japan, including the offer of a summit on the 8th of August 1941, but they all failed. By the 2nd of December 1941, Japan had been cut off from 75% of her normal trade by the Allied blockade, and thus found herself forced into attacking America in order to maintain her prosperity and to secure her existence as a sovereign nation.
That's what it was. They had to. They was like, look, we're trying to talk to you in order to like make this right. We're trying to have an agreement. They're like, nope, nope, nope. You're going to do what we say. And it was like, well, we ain't got no choice. You know, we're a sovereign nation. We want to keep it that way.
In order to maintain her prosperity and to secure her existence as a sovereign nation. The uncompromising and unrelenting pressure applied by the usurers in New York had deliberately provoked Japan into taking retaliatory action.
Exactly.
Post-World War II developments. Following Japan's defeat, one of the first acts of the United States occupation forces in Japan in September 1945 was to restructure the Japanese banking system. So
there it is. It never fails. Every single time. Every time. It's like, you're going to get under our banking system or else. That's what this is all about.
To make it compliant with the norms of the international bankers, i.e. usury. The unrestricted financing of the state by the Bank of Japan was abolished, and the large industrial combines, the zaibatsu, were dismantled. This policy was carried out by Joseph Dodge, a Detroit banker, who was financial advisor to the Supreme Allied Commander, General Douglas MacArthur. The Ministry of Finance was, however, able to retain a measure of control over the banking system, and in particular, monetary policy. In 1988, Japan was adversely affected by its compliance with the Basel I regulations, which obliged the Bank of Japan to raise the minimum capital requirements of its risk-related assets from 2% to 8%. This action precipitated an on-off recession which has lasted for the past 29 years. In April 1998, the Ministry of Finance was forced by law to yield to the independent Bank of Japan. Since that time, the Bank of Japan has functioned as a typical Rothschild-controlled central bank, which seldom performs its duties in the best interests of the Japanese people.
Dang, man. Wow. So we got Stifler, Mussolini, kind of, they didn't go into detail with him, and Japan, who were trying to do their own banking. And then we know what happened with Japan, because Hirosaki, whatever those things were, not Nagasaki, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, whatever. Then that makes, unfortunately, that makes sense as to why that was placed upon them. Wow, all because of banking. My God. Hey, shout out to Peace Dozer for this breakdown, man. Yes, shout out to you. Fair use. Wow, the more you know. This is crazy, man. Wow. Man, that's wild. Well, y'all, we're not going to make it to the AI portion of the show today. It's going to, I'm pressed for time, unfortunately, but we'll be back on Monday. I'll pick back up and actually do that on Monday, and we'll continue on with that on Monday. But with that being said, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for being here. We'll see y'all on Monday. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourself. Be safe out there. Take care of your loved ones. Kiss your family. Kiss your loved ones, and tell them that you love them. And, you know, don't wait till a funeral to bring somebody their flowers. You know, and hopefully you learned something today, because the more you know, the more you grow, the more you learn. And if anything tells you anything, this should open your mind up to get you an understanding of the mindset that you need to be in order to proceed forward in the life that you live in, or the life that you're trying to attain. Understand that if you can, man, grow your own food, you know, and make sound investments, and keep quiet and keep to yourself. Love y'all. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Peace.
I'd rather be in the studio than in jail or on the street. Talking the wrong, coming off your teeth. Got that one hit to quit and knock you off your feet. It's big on, baby, I'm obsolete. Pockets chunky like cottage cheese. Real nigga, I just gotta be. Smoking weed that don't gotta see. Used to be a hustler prodigy. I love when people say they proud of me. I'm eating good, smoking broccoli. Taking over blocks like Monopoly. Only fuck the ones that's my policy. Most of these hoes trying to cause a scene. Like niggas mad they not on the team. See, I got bread, then bought a dream. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, no, the only thing I'm chasing. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, no, the only thing I'm chasing. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. Counting cash and smoke green, can be blowing cloud like a smoke machine. The bitch on my dick, she got notes to sing. Bumblebee ass, yeah, I know it's thing. I plug your bitch like a 6-string. Jordan with the bitches got 6 rings. Smoke till my bitch a split screen. The press with pain pills and sipping lean. Riding dirty, but I'm extra clean. Lyrics nice, but I'm extra mean. All-star heavyweight like Wolverine. The bitch launch like she open me. I flip money like Clover G. Gang hustle like TIP. Hard baby like D.I.G. Acronym like KRT. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing. The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. In the beats like RP, no hard shit where your artery. Cutting up, who's sharper than me? Rolling up accordingly. Pulling hoes, no sorcery. Rapping like y'all forcing me. If I ain't write it, then it's forgery. Nigga selling to the rock like a Flores beat. Lyrical monster on the Lord of Beats. Text nigga, my bitch Georgia Peach. Pimp tight nigga, I do more than cheat. Cold like D-Wade, I ignore the heat. Bitch, I'm on way, hit the short for reach. Money jumping like the nigga on my sneaks. Come to Patty James, give me on the beat. Bitch, I'm always winning like what's the feed? The game on like, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop.